In this video, we sit down with Omar, a longtime collector that goes by the wrong wrist on Instagram. We talk about his love for independent brands including MB&F, FP Journe, Bethune, and Urwerk. Grab a coffee, sit back, and enjoy. I think for you, you're one of the people that I've been following for quite a while, and I'd say as far as watch community goes, you're also one of the people who's most experienced when it comes to the world of independence. And so I want to ask you this, which I think is a question a friend posed to me. When switching from, the mainstream brands to independence, do you see that as a form of sort of graduating, or do you see it as a form of compromising?
That's a very interesting question because I look at it from a different angle because I never thought of it this way. For me, the shift happened is when, and I don't mean this in a wrong way, but once the brand that I loved became very mainstream and given the hype, what happened to the market, I disconnected. So, and for a lot of people, they speak about the Holy Trinity and they would consider like AP, Patek, and VC as part of the Holy Trinity. It's where I questioned it, is why is this the Holy Trinity? And once you disconnect with this brand, you start looking elsewhere. So you keep an open mind. And obviously, I've been inspired by others. It's not like I discovered independence. No, because it takes time. Because the first time I saw an independent brand, I think goes back to maybe more than 10 years. I didn't understand it.
What have been the first brand that you came into contact with?
I saw for the first time, more than 10 years ago, I saw an MB&F. So it was the HM3 that was on display in one of the watch stores. And honestly, I was blown away by the watch, but I'm like, what the heck is this frog doing on display? It takes time for you to educate yourself about those specific brands and brand owners or watchmakers. So for me, it's when everything else became, let's say, hyped and mainstream, I wanted to look elsewhere. And the door of independence just opened, And like I said, if you keep an open mind and you just not focus on what everybody else is focused, you start to look and find some gems. And for me, it was very important at that stage is to build a connection. So with the other brands, I'm just a number on the system. Maybe I'm a name on the waiting list. But with the independence, if you have the luxury to go and meet them, I'm a person, They know me by name, I know them by name. You meet the executives, you meet the brand owner, brand owners, you meet the watchmakers. I mean, what is more satisfying than to say I shook the hand of the watchmaker who built my watch? So that's how I converge into independence. This is the thing that attracted me. And I don't see it as, okay, I'm evolving, I'm moving from one place to the other. It's just a personal choice. Because I don't see that watch collecting is a journey and it's a very individual journey and you relate to it according to your own terms. There's no, let's say, one clear direction that we all have to follow. It's just where you see yourself, what do you want from it, and what makes you happy at the end of the day.
Amazing. I think a lot of more people are getting into independence nowadays, whether it's, for a reason they feel like perhaps some watches are overhyped or the connection with the brands just aren't what they used to be. But, there's a lot of independence out there, whether it's like, larger brands like MB&F and, there's like plenty of like smaller brands out there too. So for people trying to get into the world, what is Omar's guide for like, at least like to give people like a brief idea, what pieces or what sort of brands that you should be looking for? Like, how do you appreciate the watches maybe? Do you have any tips for as far as that goes?
Yes, of course. I mean, it depends, again, where you want to start and how you want to start. First and foremost, I always say you have to make the connection. You have to meet them. So if you want to go, like I spoke about the Holy Trinity, it's funny because like my Holy Trinity is MB&F, Bethune, and Urwerk. Like this for me is the Holy Trinity.
I thought you put Journe.
Journe is in a different category. So if you look at Journe, at Red Jeb, at Kari Voutilainen, I don't put them in the same category because I consider MB&F, Bethune, and Urwerk, I consider these guys as, let's say, the disruptives, the contemporary watchmakers of today's day, because they're giving us something unconventional, whether it comes to design, case, mechanism, movements. So Journe, I see him as a classically trained watchmaker doing beautiful classic watches. The same with Kari Voutilainen. In a way, also the same with Recep. He's doing the RRCC now, which is more into the classic. Yes, the AK, the Akrivia line, is a bit contemporary, but I differentiate those classes. So for people who want to start getting into this independent route, if you want to go to the big brands, it's very easy. All you need to do is reach out. They are all so welcoming. So if you reach out to Max Buser, for instance, on Instagram, he will reply to you. People say, "Oh, can you put us in touch?" I'm like, honestly, I don't need to put you in touch. Just reach out to the guy, and he's gonna give you his phone number, and you can contact him yourself. So you don't have to start where I started, because as you mentioned, there's the micro independents, which are the smaller independents, which also deserves a lot of credit, to the likes of Michel Holintrix, for instance, or Sartori BR. There are a few micro independents that you can look into, and you can start your journey there. And it's so nice because you can still find some gems. Not everything is hyped. And the beauty of watches and the beauty of this hobby that we all share is there's a lot. There's a lot to see. There's a lot to discover. There's a lot of brands that are out there. So whether you're looking for something on the higher end or, let's say, something more accessible, the array of brands and the array of people and watchmakers is just, it's there. It's for you just to knock on their doors and meet them. So two micro independents that I personally love and would highly recommend is, like I said, Holintrix and Sartori BR. I think they do amazing watches. Value for money is unbeatable. But then you can look at Lane watches. Lane does beautiful watches. So it all depends if you're a mechanic guy, you're looking for complication, or you're a dial guy, or you're a case guy. So it all depends on what you're looking.
Do you feel like talking to, you've met a lot of collectors who've collected like a bunch of different brands, some probably more mainstream, but do you ever feel like some people have like wrong misconceptions about independence? For example, like, Rolex or Patek owners that be very, peace of mind because anything goes wrong with your watch, down the road, there's basically Patek Service Center or Rolex Service Center. Like whether it's ownership or servicing or even like purchasing or like connection with a brand, do you feel like there's any key misconceptions that people, might have the wrong idea of when it comes to independence?
To be honest with you, not so much, but yes. I've met a lot of people that collect differently, and that's something that I enjoy. I enjoy meeting people in this community just because I want to go through your journey. I went through mine and I share it on my Instagram account, but I'm also interested on how did you develop your journey, what you went through. So yes, sometimes the issue raises and they are concerned, like, okay, with independence, what is the after service, like especially like the timing of it, how efficient they are, do they own up to whatever happens to the watch. So there are some skeptics out there, but I can only speak out of experience as someone who's experienced service watch with independent watchmakers and independent brand. I have to say, I do give these guys credit. These guys are up there. These guys, at the end of the day, it's their name on the brand, right? If Patek Philippe, yes, it's run by the Stern family, but at the end of the day, it's not his name on the brand. He can sell it at any point in time. Yes, he cannot afford to have a bad reputation, fine. But it's a different story. But with the independents, that's their name on the watch or on the brand. So this means a lot, and this goes a long way. So they do precisely look and do take care of any minor details and any concern that anybody has with independence if it comes to after service. I can tell you, put your feet in cold water. I don't know if this expression makes sense. In Arabic, we say it. It makes sense maybe for the Arabic community. But yeah, just put your feet in cold water. These guys, they know what they're doing and they won't let you down. So I try to, for me, it's also part educating people. So if somebody has some concerns, I can only share my experience again. And since I've lived it, then I can share it and then I can say for a fact, yes, look at what they're doing, and trust me, you won't be disappointed when it comes, if need be, when it comes to servicing or anything else.
So I think for a brand that stands out personally when it comes to servicing is, of course, MB&F, one of, I guess, the largest and, Yeah, I do think if you have a holy trinity of independence, you definitely put MB&F up there. I think as a small story, my friend who has the LM101, one of his buddies was handling it and dropped it on the ground. And in that process, it dented one of the lugs. So when he sent it back to MB&F, obviously it's not, natural and it's not something that the brand should be covering. But, they serviced everything, they replaced the lug, they, changed the crystal, fully serviced the watch, and everything was done for free. So I think that goes to show like how good their servicing and the experience of ownership is. But MB&F, we're talking off camera, but of course it's a brand that you have a lot of attachment with. And currently I believe you have 2 watches from them.
Yes.
Can you just detail like your journey and your relationship with Max? Yeah, how that has come about.
Sure. I mean, everybody who knows me knows how much I love Max and how much I admire him as a person, first and foremost, and obviously as a brand owner and as a designer, as a creator. So like I said before, I think I saw my first MB&F piece maybe a little over 10 years ago. And I didn't understand it, honestly, but I was mesmerized. Especially when I looked at it back then, I was used to looking at brand names, right? Because when you look at the watch, you see the brand, whether it's Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, even Rolex, there's a name. So with this brand was MB&F. I'm like, what is that? 3 letters? What is M? What is B? What is the F? I didn't know anything, right? But with time, with social media, with Instagram, and then you start seeing more and more, and you get access to information, and you start digging into it. You start reading, watching interviews, going into their account, and the passion and the love and the obsession developed from there. Like it was one piece after the other. There were crazy designs, crazy movements, and it was like one big bang after the other. And one day I just decided, okay, now I'm ready. I think I am mature enough to let go of the commercial pieces that I call commercial and knock on the door of the independent. So I reached out to Max on Instagram and I said, Max, I introduced myself. Obviously, I said, I admire you. I like what you do. I respect you. I want to buy one of your watches. And from there, I got his contact details and we started talking about it. And my choice was obviously the LMP Evo. I was back then, I wanted to either go big or go home, right? So I chose the LMP Evo first because I love the complication of a perpetual calendar. Second is who did the perpetual calendar, because F are the friends, but also F are the people that Max collaborated with. And Stephen McDonald, who for me is a tremendous and a very creative and genius watchmaker. The mere fact that he's not a watchmaker by trade, he's a theologist, and he learned how to do watches on his own merit and decided to pursue a career is already admirable. And for him to come up with a new way to calculate a complicated thing like a perpetual calendar was amazing. So the story of the microprocessor that Stephen came up with that will block the day on 28 and will add, according to the month, the extra day 2 or 3, depends if you're on 28, you go to 29, 30 or 31. Just the genius behind this microprocessor and the whole appeal to the watch for me was mesmerizing. So I said I need to have this piece. And being Max, he's so amazing. Like if he has the piece, you can buy it through him. If not, he'll say, okay, let me look into my files, let's see who has it. And he'll put you in contact with the person. So long story short, I told you the story about it. We're not going to go into the details. But the whole journey and the whole chase for me to end up getting this watch was so enjoyable. There was a lot of back and forth. And the thing is, you're in constant talk with Max, you're in constant talk with people in the community. And him being there supporting you and guiding you is amazing. I don't think Thierry Stern, many people can have this conversation with him, or Dufour from Rolex, or any of the CEOs. So this appealed to me, and this is what I loved. And so it started with an LMP, the Evo. Then obviously the matte was released as tribe members. We get the matte blue. And I give a lot of credit to Max because he made me break a lot of rules. I'm very disciplined when it comes to buying watches, in a sense where I don't buy more than one reference. I'll give you an example. Like a GMT Rolex. I don't need to have a Pepsi, a Batman, the root beer, and whatever, you know. One GMT is more than enough.
Yes.
And if I need another GMT, then this one has to go. So I had the Mad Blue, Mad Red comes out. I'm like, damn, I can't let go of the Mad Blue. That's a tribe member piece. And the Mad Red is also nice because there was a little change
To the bezel.
to the bezel and the
sorry,
crown.
yeah.
The crown was different and the size was a tad smaller. So he made me buy the same watch twice. No, not only twice, because they did release the matte green, and green being my color. Now I have 3 watches that are the same, but with different colors. So this goes to the person, this goes to every effort that he puts into his brand. And I always say this, once you're able to connect with someone, that's a priceless experience, priceless. So obviously I have the MADs, I have the LM, and in my mindset, I needed to complete this trifecta. So I needed the HM, and I came across a very nice HM. And the story of the HM is also brilliant. Again, testament to Max. His genuinity is amazing, because I wanted the HM8 Mark II, but Max knew my situation. Everybody knows my situation, and the situation in Lebanon that made me move. And financially, I was no longer where I used to be. So Max said, Omar, now is not the right time for you to buy a watch in this price range. Why don't we look at other options? This alone is so amazing. Who would do that? Who would tell a client, I'm not gonna sell you this watch, it's not the right time, let's look at other options. So eventually I didn't get the HM8 Mark II, but I got another beautiful HM in return, which is the X. And to wrap up my love for MB&F, and maybe for people to understand why I love this person and this brand, I always said that the best part in this journey for me is when I had the chance to call Max when I was in Dubai, because he lives there, and I was there with my daughters. And I reached out to him, I'm like, Max, I'm in Dubai, would love to catch up. I didn't think he was gonna propose what he proposed. I thought maybe we'll catch up for coffee or drink. So Max tells me, oh, your daughters are here? You know what? I'm going to the beach on the weekend. Why don't you join us? I'm like, well, can you imagine spending a day at the beach with somebody you respect and you admire? Thank you. And so we go and we spend a day and not only it was a day with his family, it was his wife's birthday.
Oh, wow.
So I'm there joining Max, celebrating his wife's birthday at the beach with the girls. We were playing with our daughters, enjoying ourselves, goofing around. And for me, this time that I spent with him, not talking about watches, and it wasn't any watch event or anything else, it was so personal that for me makes the difference.
Awesome. I think in many ways, he is a creative genius, and the way that he runs his business is very different from what you find, in the conventional sort of mainstream world. And yeah, mad respect to him, pun intended, I guess. And of course, his latest sort of Madhouse video is incredible. I think when it comes to marketing and telling a story, no one really does it quite like Max himself. So yeah, that's amazing. I guess we'll move on to another brand, which I guess is close to your heart, FP Journe. I know you just bought a piece for your brother.
Yes.
And you also have a biblos,
yes,
correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. I guess FP Journe is kind of a weird case in my head, because it's like bridging the world of like more independence and mainstream, because I think a lot of mainstream people sort of like caught on to the brand, especially when prices went crazy, the causes of which, whatever, but it is what it is. What are your thoughts about FP Journe nowadays?
I totally agree with you. And before we get into FP Journe, you mentioned the mad video that they did.
Yeah.
I must tell you, and I must share this. I've seen this video at least more than 10, 15 times now. And there's a moment in that video that personally, emotionally made me cry and affected me. Is when Max is on the balcony, yes, and the little kid is looking at him, and Max like glimpses at the kids and he winks at him. Like, I understood it. I understood what's the message. The message is like, kid, keep dreaming. I got you. Don't worry. You're gonna get there. So I have goosebumps just, you can witness the goosebumps. It's crazy. So this is a very emotional and powerful connection that the brand and Max can do with people that appreciate the brand. So to Francois-Paul Journe, yes, again, Francois-Paul Journe, credits due where credits are due, right? And so he's one of the greatest watchmakers of today's world. And I always say this, I wish I lived in the era of Abraham Ruiz Breguet, you know. For somebody who loves watches and loves this and loves the people behind it, you want to be able to say, oh, I met the person that the brand belongs to or whatever. So Francois Paul is, along with Philippe Dufour and some others, are still living, and knock on wood, hope they live for a long time. So he's one of the best current living watchmakers. You have to give credit to that. And the guy also revolutionized the way watches are perceived. And whether we like or not what you were mentioning about what happened with the prices and a lot of mainstream, a lot of people getting into it for the wrong reason, I still believe in the vision of the brand. I believe in his workmanship and craftsmanship ability. And I just think the brand is really up there. Let's be a little bit controversial and honest here. There are some faulty things when it comes to some of his complications. But it happens, you know, it happens. We cannot deny the fact that if a resonance has some issues, for instance, or something else has some other issues, or maybe some people will criticize the sound of the minute repeaters. They will say that the chiming is not to the level. Fine, you can say whatever you want. But at the end of the day, he's a brilliant watchmaker. And just look at the Francis Ford Coppola watch. I mean, come on.
Yeah, crazy.
What an ingenious, brilliance, craftsmanship there. So, but for me, the connection with Journe happened also later on. And the connection happened, again, through the people. And one of the people that I regard highly and love and admire is a collector from Lebanon. And for me, he is one of the, I mean, if not the number one, but he's one of the top collectors. His name is Claude Sfer.
Oh.
And he's such an amazing, genuine, humble human being. And I remember when I met him for the first time, I had butterflies in my stomach. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm meeting Claude Sfer. And I remember I sat and he looked at me, he's like, hey, what's wrong with you? Chill, you know? And that, you know, that alone was like, oh, wow, he's telling me to chill? Okay, I'm going to chill. So Claude is somebody I love and respect. And Claude had worked with Francois Paul on the limited edition they did for the boutique. So the Byblos was launched as a limited edition, 99 pieces for the store in Lebanon. And the story of the Byblos goes, it's very poetic. It's the 10th boutique, and it's made for Lebanon. So Claude got inspired by Byblos. Byblos is one of the oldest cities still being inhabited in the world. It's more than 5,000 years old.
Wow.
And it's a city on the Mediterranean coast. It's on the sea. So when you looked at the Byblos, it's based on the Chrono Bleu, but it's skeletonized. And if you look at the patterns, so it could be the sky, you know, the blue Chrono Bleu, and the waves could be the sky, and the white scripts of the numbers could be the clouds. If you look at the dial, it's gold, so it could be the sun shining. So it's very poetic. Plus, the J in Journe is written in Phoenician alphabet because the origins of Lebanese, we are Phoenicians. And in Phoenician alphabet, it happens that J is the 10th letter. And this is done for the 10th boutique.
Oh, okay.
And even further, the J comes from the word hand, and this is a hand-finished watch. So the whole story of the watch and the whole culmination of it coming was brilliant. Plus, it's from Lebanon. It's my hometown, my home country, plus the relationship with Claude. So it's something I had to buy. And so my admiration and love for Journe grew from there, but it started because of my relationship with Claude. And from there, you know, I have a trifecta in my mind. I don't know, I like to do things in three. When I was younger, I was a little bit OCD, and everything needed to be done by three, by multiples of three. So three is a number I have in mind. And so I always need to have three. I don't need to, but I would like to have three. So with the Journe, I've always wanted a line spore. And to be honest as well, things grow on you, you know. It's not, I never say that, you know, some other collectors that I look up to were way ahead of their time where they spotted some things. I did not spot a Journe to be a sports watch. But after seeing a lot of sports watches with other collectors, it grew onto me. And I always wanted to get one. And I wanted to celebrate the occasion And I wanted to treat my brother to a nice gift because me and my brother are partners, so we work together. Now that I'm pursuing a different career, he's still back home trying to let the business survive, trying his best. So I wanted to reward him, and I wanted to get a watch that me and him can enjoy together. So I ended up also looking for a limited edition one because in my mindset, I try to buy only limited edition pieces, and I fell in love with the Octaspore and the Indy 500. It's a beautiful watch. So there's two versions. There's one is with the insignia of Lotus and Indy 500, and it is signed by Jean Alesi. And there's one that is clean, pure stealth. So the whole look and appeal to the watch, black on black with black rubber, was just amazing. And so yeah, so now I'm on my second Journe, and hopefully I want to complete the trifecta. If one day I can get an Elegante, why not?
Okay.
That would complete for me my idea of what I want from Journe. Yeah, because MB&F, I have LM, HM, MAD. Those are three pieces. So Journe, I have a classic Journe, which is the Biblos. I have a sports Journe, and would love an Elegante.
And I guess another one where I'm curious if you'll complete your trinity of is the Bethune. And you have a very nice one, I must say, which is the DB28 XP steel wheels.
Correct.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of experience with Bethunes, whether it's the kind of blue, I've worn the yellow tones, I've worn the regular steel wheels, but those are some of the most special pieces, I think, the way the lugs sort of hug your wrists and everything, as well as the finishing. And the people who work for the brand are amazing too. How did you go about getting your steel wheels or like deciding on that piece? Because, they make so many nice watches.
Yeah. The Bethune and the people behind the Bethune is another great example of why we love what we love and why we connect with these people. I saw the Bethune for the first time around the same, a little less than 10 years. MB&F was a little more, the Bethune was a little less. And it was back then, there were very limited accounts because I was on Instagram now since 2012. So, and there were some disruptive, when it comes to the media, and they were promoting brands. But you look at the brands, and I'm from Lebanon, I didn't have access to them because we didn't have retailers for them. But then having the chance to travel, you end up going places where the brand is there or you meet collectors. So I saw one 8 years ago, and it was, if I'm not mistaken, the 25 Salmon dial. And I fell in love with the case. And for a very long time, it was something I was chasing. Like I wanted a nice dial in the 25 line. But then I saw the 28. Before the XP, I saw the 28, and I fell in love with the skeletonization of it. I am in a place where I truly admire, even though I'm not very technical when it comes to watches, but I do admire looking at the watch and see what's happening. I love to see the balance wheel moving. I love to see the gears. These are something that attracts me. So skeleton, if you look like the Biblos is skeleton, yes. The LMP is skeleton. So I wanted this. So I quickly moved from the 25 to focus on the 28. And for a long time, I just wanted the 28. So I had the luxury to meet York in Dubai during Dubai Watch Week, which is he's another amazing human being. Yeah. And again, the connection is very personal because funny enough, York's father, York Heisek Sr., has his own watch brand, and he's also a designer, and he had the pen collection. My father was a retailer for York Heisek maybe 20 years ago.
Wow, that's insane.
So the name, I'm very familiar with the name York Heisek. So when I met York Jr., I'm like, are you related to Senior? Oh, that's my dad. I'm like, no way, let me tell you this funny story. And so immediately the connection is made, right? And then he is a genuine, amazing human being. York is one of the nicest guys. And then you get to meet Pierre-Jacques, another funny character in this watch industry, amazing human being. So you start falling in love with the people, and then, okay, now you're ready to buy the watch. So the XP was not on my radar, the 28 was on my radar. And for the simple reason that I loved the little moon face on it. It's not a moon face, it's like an indicator of day and night. Yeah. So, and it appealed to me, like something was there. If you know, you know. And then it was a little bit skeletonized. So I loved it. And so when I reached out to the brand and I met them, I'm like, I would love to be able to purchase a 28. So they're like, oh, we don't have anything now in our current collection, but the next one that we're doing, if you like it, we can take it from there. I'm like, perfect. So I'm waiting patiently. And 2 years ago, they launched the 28 XP, and they do it as the steel wheel, and they skeletonized the middle bridge.
Because the first time they did XP, they did not have the steel wheels. It was the sort of like starry sky
Exactly.
thing, as well as the other one, the silver, like full chrome sort of thing.
Yes. So we're talking about the XP, which is slimmer. We're talking now skeleton. I mean, it was a no-brainer. I'm like, wow, that is a piece. That is truly amazing. And when I first saw it, I immediately fell in love, immediately. So I reached out to York. I'm like, I know I'm next on the 28, but if there's any chance that any allocation on the XP is made available, if you would consider selling me this piece, I would love to own it. And they came through. York, a couple of weeks later, is like, Omar, I have some good news for you. I'm like, shoot. He's like, I managed to get you an allocation. And again, people will always say, how could you get this watch? How did you get it? It's not about pulling favors. It's not about all that. No, I just went the normal route. I met the brand. I introduced myself. And the beauty of those brands is that they connect with you as well. They can see right through you. They will see if you're a genuine, passionate lover, or if you're someone that just want to buy the watch for the sake of buying it because of whatever reasons. So that was the story of the 28. And the trifecta in the Bethune is interesting. I don't know if I will get there, if I'll be able to complete it, because as you know, I'm very vocal about my vision. I have my final 5. I need to stick to my word. I need to stay to the final 5. I don't know how I can justify going deeper and finishing this trifecta. But if I had the means, if I was to buy more the Bethune, then obviously I want to buy a 25 because that's where I fell in love. Probably an annual calendar would be great there. And I would love to have a vintage de Bethune. I would love to have one of their early pieces.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we talk about the trifecta, that's where I see myself with them.
Interesting. So I think one thing I want to ask about de Bethune, because it's not really a brand that, I have too much experience with, like interacting with the people, but I'm very curious. So obviously, I'm not sure, was it a year ago or plus, there was the whole watchbox thing. So do you feel like the brand has changed at all following that move?
Ron, that's a very good question. And I'm happy you asked this question. Again, I can only speak from experience.
Yeah.
Because even though I was aware of the brand de Bethune a little less than 10 years ago, but I didn't approach the brand when they were independent. They are still independent, but when Watchbox was not involved. I got in touch with them after Watchbox was involved. And I have to give them credit because the whole relationship and the whole journey was handled by de Bethune. My only point of reference was York. I was never introduced to Watchbox. I have never met anybody from Watchbox. I wasn't put in any queue through Watchbox or, hey, get in touch with Watchbox, then we see what we can do for you. The relationship and the handling of the business was 100% always done by them. And I had the luxury to visit them and to go see their manufacturer. And when you sit with Pierre, you sit with York, and I was very fortunate to sit with Denis Flageolet. You sit and you listen to them and you feel that those guys are independent, because when they share their vision, when they share their passion, you can feel these guys are still dreaming their dream and doing what they want to do. It's not like, okay, now you belong to a certain company, they have a different directive, they're gonna start throwing ideas at you or pushing you in one direction. No, they still do what they do best, and they have total freedom to manage. And again, according to me and the experience I've had, so I believe that the collaboration with Watchbox, them buying the Bethune, did not affect at all the brand and what it does towards their clients.
No, that's awesome to hear, and I think great news for collectors as well.
I mean, I'm very honest. I'm not making this up. It's what I lived. It's the experience that I had, and that's exactly what happened.
Just now, of course, at the beginning, you mentioned the sort of holy trinity of independence. And the last one, to me, is kind of like the most controversial, not because I don't feel like it belongs in the holy trinity, but more because of my taste, and that is Urwerk.
Yes.
So I've also had, some hands-on time, in fact, quite a bit of hands-on time with various watches of theirs. And I always think, especially as a car lover, some of their watches have that sort of like aesthetic, like the shapes and everything is so unique. And it's a very unique feeling to have one of their watches. But for me personally, I would always pick something that still looks like a watch, I guess. So like I would pick your Evo over like any of their watches, I guess. And also, when it comes to things like finishing, that's not what you're getting into when you sign up for an Urwerk, right? So for you, how would you describe like that brand as well as like, their watches?
You're totally right, and you're spot on your sentiment towards the brands, and I get it, what you're saying. For me, is again, it goes to the connections, to the relationships. So, and everything changed for me in 2021, I think, when it was Dubai Watch Week, is literally when I had the chance to go there and I met everybody. So Urwerk was not on my radar. Obviously, I admired the brand, I love the brand, but I wasn't connected as much as I was with the Bethune and MB&F. But then again, you meet Felix, for instance, and then you meet Martin. Yeah. And then you meet the people that work with them. So I met Remy, I met Yassine, part of the team. And for me, the more I meet people and the more I talk to people, the more I get drawn to it. Again, I'm not buying brands anymore. Really, I cannot say I'm buying connections or I'm buying people. That's very condescending. I cannot buy people, but I want this experience. I want to be able to connect with someone, and I want to put my money into a watch where I have this personal connection with those people. So Urwerk grew later on, but once you sit with Felix, once you sit with Martin, listen to their story, see how they started, where they took the brands from, and where they are today. For me, it's something that I admired. It's something that I connected with, and my love for them developed with time. And it's funny enough because the pieces that I loved, is because my taste is very eccentric, are the flashy, crazy pieces that you're talking about. But I eventually settled with the 100, which is, let's say, not as loud as the others. It's the slimmest between them, and the case is not something that we've seen, but it's calmer, let's say, than the rest. So for me, Urwerk represents something that is unconventional. Even their planetary system and the way time is indicated is different than what everybody else is doing. And a great testament to a brand is when you see some other brands, lesser known brands, that copy what they do. Yeah. So that goes a long way when you see, they created something, right? They created this movement. They created this fashion sense of watches. And that for me is something that I connect with.
No, awesome. I do like their watches a lot, and maybe I'll get into one day. But I think I would probably need a bit more time to sort of like look into it more. But awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So as a way to end the videos, I usually like to ask, the people who come on sort of like fun what if questions. And I think one that would be interesting to ask you, since you have so much experience with independents and, various people in the industry. Let's say that you had the opportunity to create your sort of like own watch or your own sort of project. You can get anyone you want to work on it. What would you create and who would you get?
Wow. Amazing question. If I had the opportunity to create something, and that's something, maybe if I say it now, people will laugh. But I had this idea in my mind that I want to bring everybody together. So my dream, if I had the ability, I wouldn't just put one person, but I literally want to combine everybody that I love to work on one piece. What that piece would be or how it can come to form, I don't have an exact vision, but I know the materials that I want and I know the direction that I want. So I love carbon, so I would have to be carbon cased. And I love skeletonized. So if we can do, and my favorite complication is a perpetual calendar. Nice. So if we can have a skeletonized perpetual calendar, add to it a minute repeater.
Oh, wow.
In a carbon case, on a green rubber strap, and have let's say, MB&F, the Bethune, Urwerk, Journe, Akrivia, all the people that I love work on it, that's something that I would do
Awesome.
for sure. But I think I'm living in utopia.
I mean, you definitely went a lot further than I thought you'd go.
Yeah. I'll tell you why, Ron, because your question is very straightforward, but it's very hard to answer this question because I have love for a lot of people. You know, I could say, okay, I'm going to pick Rajab and we're going to do something with Rajab. But then again, you see people that are coming into the market, emerging. Take Simon Brett, for instance. I love Simon Brett and what he did. So how can I pick Rajab and not pick Simon, or not pick Max, or not pick Denis Flageolet? So it's very tough. So my answer would be, I want everybody to come together and do one piece.
Amazing. Another question, sort of what if? Of course, I think you have your, I forgot the term, but your sort of like 5 watches.
The final 5.
Right.
Yes.
But let's say that, disregarding that, let's say one day someone random came up to you, gave you infinite amount of money.
Yes.
But you can only build a 3-watch collection. You can't sell any of the watches. You take them to your grave essentially, and they're the only 3 watches that you ever own.
Okay.
But you cannot create some crazy piece unique that doesn't exist already.
Okay.
And yeah, that's the main rule.
So
off the top of your head, yeah.
Okay, I have to choose 3 watches.
Yes.
Okay, in that sense, then I will look at collaborations. Let's say, because I want to combine the people that I love. So in that case, for instance, because I love Urwerk and because I love MB&F, then I would pick the Nitro watch.
Yep.
For instance, right? So in one watch, I have 2 stones. Then I love Kari Voutilainen and I love the Bethune. Then maybe I will get the Kind of Magic.
Okay.
So I would pick the Nitro. I would pick the Kind of Magic.
Is that the only watch? The Kind of
It
Magic?
is an only watch, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was an only watch. So I would look for watches like that. So my top 3 would be Kind of Magic, the Nitro. I have to choose, can it be one of the pieces that I actually have?
Of course.
Okay, since I have Max with the Nitro, and then I have Carrie and the Bethune, I would have to go with the B+. I would have to go with the B+, just because of my connection with Claude Sphere, and because this is a watch made for Lebanon. And even though I've disconnected with my country currently because of whatever happened, it is where I come from. It's my origins, it's my history, it's my roots. So that watch is something that has to be in the top 3, and I will take down to the grave.
Oh, I'm not sure if you can share what your upcoming plans are, especially since you've just come off a stint at Ristrek.
Yeah.
Is that something that you want to talk about?
Yeah, of course, we can. So, yeah, what am I doing in Singapore? Why am I here? So, I decided to make a shift in my career, and I decided to distance myself more from dealing and selling with watches, because once you have so much love for something, you don't want that thing to become something that you're trading. I'm not gonna lie to you, part of the passion, if it's not controlled, is gonna disappear. So I wanted to still be in the watch industry, but I wanted a different role. So I reached out to Wei one day and I said, Wei, if there's any opportunity to join you, to do something together, I would be honored. And Wei was working and is still working on establishing Revolution for the Middle East. And so we're working on partnering up with the Siddiqui to have Revolution Arabia to be able to cover the Middle East. And it's nothing yet official, we're working on it. But my role is I want to reach out to people, I want to build communities, I want to educate, share the passion, learn from you, you learn from me, but it's also important that I learn from you. And so that's my next journey, that's my next step, is to be able to have and represent what Wei is doing for the world of watches, because I truly believe this guy he's a legend, he's on another level. The way he covers watches and the way he speaks about watches, the guy is an encyclopedia. The amount of knowledge that he has is, I've never seen somebody. So it's somebody that I respect and somebody that I would love to work with. So hopefully the next step would be based in Dubai, to be able to do what he's doing for the Middle Eastern market.
If you enjoyed this video, check out my watch reviews and other podcast episodes. Thank you for watching.